Okay, well, hi everyone, and thank you very much for watching or listening. Liam Hartree here again today with a very special guest for another episode of the Simply Inspired podcast. And today I'm joined by ultra marathon runner Melissa Mckeehan. Hopefully, I'm saying that the right way.
Yep.
This lady is joining us from California to Cyprus, so it's amazing how technology can take us around the world. Now, today we're going to be talking about everything ultra running. This lady has been involved and completed some of the toughest races in the world, including Badwater 135, the Hurt 100, I believe. You've got Cruel Jewel in there. You've got 50 miles, 100 miles, 24-hour races, quite a nice mix of stuff, mainly 100 miles, but a lot of other things. She also balances running these crazy distances with a high-profile job in medicine as well, which we'll find out more about shortly. So, as always, today, not just talking about sports, but we'll go a little bit deeper and talk about the mindset that it takes as well to reach such a high level in one of the toughest sports in the world, although I'm sure one of the most rewarding as well. So, Melissa, thank you for taking time out of your morning. As I said to you before, thank you for bearing with me while I moved from the UK to Cyprus, and I know we had to rebook this. So, thank you, and it's wonderful to finally have you on the show.
Yep, it's a pleasure.
Absolutely. So, good. Okay. So hopefully I haven't missed anything there. But we will get into everything with ultra running now and how you started it and everything like that. But before we do, just out of my curiosity, how many races have you done in terms of like these long distances, 50 miles, 100 miles, or all of that type of thing? If you don't know an exact number, that's okay. I was just wondering if roughly.
I haven't done that many. I think I've completed 14 or 1500 or above. I haven't done very many shorter distances. I did do comrades earlier this year. That's I think it was 88K or something. I, I I started when I started. I did like a marathon and then a 50K and 50 mile, and then my first 100. So I sort of had to build up, but then I just kind of decided I liked that 100 mile distance the best.
That is amazing. I mean, I know you're very humble about it, obviously. But 100 miles, I mean, it's very, very impressive, and doing that many of them, very, very impressive. So something to be proud of for sure. Now, in terms of how you started that, I mean, I don't always go back to the beginning, but I think let's go back to the beginning for a moment in terms of growing up and everything. Were you always very sporty? Were you involved in other sports, or was that something that kind of came a little bit later?
I played soccer or football, and for 10 years, from maybe 5 or 6 to 16. But I wouldn't say I was really sporty. I mean, I don't know. I wasn't the most amazing soccer player. But then I didn't do anything really until mid 20s. I started going to the gym, just doing, you know, gym rat stuff. But my daughter, when she was in middle school, I she was kind of a handful, and so I wanted her to, you know, get into some kind of sport, give her some discipline. And a friend of mine told me about a running club, a nonprofit that is run after school, and now the person who runs that is called We Rock. We run Orange County's kids, and Andrea Koyman, one of my really good friends now, she happens to be an awesome ultra runner. So I put my daughter in this program where they train them to run a marathon. She was 12, 13 at the time, and she has over 100 kids running the OC marathon in spring every year. And my daughter didn't want to do it. So I said, hey, I'm not going to make you do something I wouldn't do myself. So I'll train with you. And that's how I started. I started training for this marathon, and then I met all these crazy ultra runners through Andrea, and then it was all downhill from there. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
It's amazing. That is an amazing start to the journey. And downhill, I don't know. I mean, I think a lot of it's uphill, isn't it? Especially when we get to Badwater and some of those shortly. But that's an amazing start to the journey, and I love that how you joined in with your daughter and made it sort of a family thing, and that's actually super cool. Um, Wow, okay. Now, during this time, obviously medicine as well and your work there. I mean, you could correct me if I'm off with any timelines, but to do what you do in medicine, it takes a lot of study, it takes a lot of dedication and everything like that as well. So were you at that time, were you juggling running and studying, working, doing everything else in your life in those early days?
Yes. So I started running in 2015, like from scratch. My longest run before that was maybe like a mile or two to warm up at the gym or something. But I was done with school. I'm not a physician. I'm a technologist. So, but I work in the operating room at a trauma center, and so unpredictable, long hours. I do rotate calls, so it's yeah, it's hard to schedule or get into a really good routine. So I would wake up at 3 in the morning and run to get runs in because I have to be at work at 6. And I can't run after work because I'm not really sure when I'll get off. And I used to try to do that, but I would get really frustrated at first when I started running, trying to juggle both things because I felt like I had to get a run in. I had to do a certain distance. I was being very, I guess, just paying too much attention to numbers and things like that. And then once I sort of started doing more races, or after I did like the first marathon and started running more, I realized that I didn't need to schedule myself so tight and I could give myself some grace. And if I missed a run, it wasn't a huge deal, things like that. Sometimes I still get thrown off, but I've kind of figured it out now. But I definitely have to actually right now is kind of a long run time for me. My Fridays are my one guaranteed day off typically. And it's kind of funny because I know we rescheduled this multiple times and I was like, I can always do this on Fridays. But there was an emergent case this morning. I had no one at work and I almost had to cancel, but thank God I found one of my team members went in. So I was like, oh my gosh, like the one Friday. But yeah, so it can get hard for sure. But you just have to give yourself grace and know that it's okay if you can't get every run in. You still can, you know, all that training, all that build up, it'll get you to the finish line.
Absolutely amazing. Well, I love how you fit everything in your life. I think it's really something I admire a great deal because this is the thing. I mean, fitness in around work, and yeah, I know we were talking about your schedule and everything. It can get pretty wild. So there we are. It's a good thing you didn't have to cancel, though. You see, these things happen for a reason at the end of the day, and we're here and we're doing it. But no, it is amazing. And that lesson you shared there as well, taking pressure off yourself, such an important thing, you know. I mean, again, everything that we talk about in this podcast is all about helping people, inspiring people, maybe pointing out little things that they've missed that can help them. Everybody's journey is a little bit different, but there's little things like that, like the tendency we have to put pressure on ourselves that are just so commonplace, and realizing that you don't have to, I think is really, really important. So good stuff so far. So in terms of getting into races and progressing, basically, when I talk to people about this, there's usually a process of like, okay, I'm running further and further. I love this. I enjoy it. Okay. But actually, I can take this quite far. If you get what I mean, it's like a mental process of, okay, this is going beyond like just being fun. I can actually win stuff with this. I can actually, or at the very least, I can say, okay, how far can I actually go? And people usually have that mental switch, if you get what I mean. So I basically like to talk about the first successes or the earliest races, and when you were starting out. When I was researching this, I think there was a 24-hour race. that was quite early on as well. So that's definitely sort of jumping in a deep end, which I think is cool. But basically, that time in your life when you were figuring this out and when you were figuring out how far you could take it, if that makes sense, would be really good to touch on, please.
Sure. So that 24 hour uh, was 3 weeks after my first marathon. And my my friends from the running club, some of them were going to it. They had been going every year, it's Memorial Day weekend. And they were like, hey, just, just come and, see what you can do. Like, you don't have, there's no set distance, you know, just go until, you can't go. And at the time, I had no clue about the mental fortitude that you need to finish these extreme distances, right? And I had barely run my first marathon, and marathons are not easy either. They also require mental fortitude. But I show up in my road shoes, and it's like this dusty 1 mile loop. Very small amount, part of it is paved, and then there was this like gopher hole grass area, and then just like dirt, like went through like an orange grove, and yeah, it was just and then there's just a bunch of people going around and around and around, and I it took me like 16 hours to do 100K, and then I was like, all right, I'm done, I wanted to quit at 50 though, really bad. I sat down. I had like the worst blisters, road shoes, and the dust, the mesh, and all that stuff. It was just like not a good combo. And uh, and that's how I met one of my best friends, actually, because he was sitting on the other side of the trail. He was there for 100 miles. That was his goal. And we both wanted to quit at 50. And we're just staring at each other across the trail, like, are you gonna quit? And then somebody walked by and they were like, hey, just get to 100K, And it's so funny how that works, because I did quit at 100K, but that actually works really well in the long distances, is to break it up into small goals. So you're like, okay, like is this what I did for Badwater? I split it up into, there's 3 major climbs. The last climb is the last, 6 miles or whatever. And I just broke it up. So, you just tell yourself like, hey, cool, I finished the first 30 miles, or 33 miles, I only have to do this 2 more times, and then, but when it gets really hard, sometimes you just, I'm just going to get to the next aid station, just get to the next aid station. So that was something I had to learn, at the beginning, was, it's, yes, you got to have your eye on the prize. You have to have your goal. You have to go into the race thinking you are going to finish. You can't go into one of these ultras with any leaving like any crawl space open for you to escape through. Like, you can't, like, I've had this my knee has been bothering me a little bit, lately. Gosh, hope it doesn't mess up my race. And then you're like, well, my knee hurts at mile 60, and so you drop. You just have to be like, no matter what, I'm going to finish. So definitely that was something that came with experience. And after that 100K, I did 2 50Ks. I learned more about nutrition. In these long races, like you can run, shorter distances and not eat anything. I even eat in a marathon. I'm not a good marathoner. I'm very slow, which is why I love those long distances. It's like you can be so slow when you look at the average time, and then it seems so fast when you finish. But yeah, I did two 50Ks, two 50 milers. I messed up my first 50 miler so bad. It was in Catalina. My nutrition was messed up. I did not eat enough. You just got to eat, man. Like you have to eat so much. Um, and then and then I like hurt my hip. I like pulled my hip flexor and had to like limp the last 3 miles, which is all downhill on road. It was just like it was just like a funny like experience looking back because I was just so inexperienced. But you know, you just gotta think, okay, well, this is what I did wrong, and next time, you know. But it's good to run those smaller races before your A race or your goal race, so you can fix those little issues for sure. And then my first 100 was in it was on the East Coast in North Carolina. I don't know. I only chose that race because my grandparents lived there. So it's kind of an excuse to go visit them. And it was like a 12-mile loop. So I kind of like was like, okay, I'm gonna do another loop because uh, it feels safe. It's easy to have like your drop bags. And I went alone. I didn't have any friends. I didn't know anybody. And at the time, I mean, I know a lot more people in the community now, but at the time I didn't know anyone. And I showed up and we're staying in these rustic cabins, no power, no cell phone coverage. Um, Literally like a wooden plank. It's like, you know, those like where kids go to camp or something. And we were just assigned to these cabins. So I was with a bunch of girls I'd never met before. And I ended up making some friends, you know, and when I started, one of the girls I had made friends with, her crew adopted me. This guy, Tim, and and he crewed me the whole race. And that's when I just like fell in love with the sport because, you know, this guy I'd never met, you know, um, is like changing my socks for me, you know, and the community is just so awesome. You know, it's like you can show up on the other side of the country, 3,000 miles away, not knowing a single person and leave with a whole bunch of friends I still stay in contact with, you know, and then what I love about that too is that, you know, when you help people, you know, in ultras and stuff, like I love the camaraderie even out in the field. Like people are that nobody's like, you know, pushing you down or like trying to like win at all costs. Like everybody is helping, you know. We just had a really hot race earlier maybe like 2 weeks ago or something is 100K, but it gets very hot here. So it's a race called Cuernavaca, and it's a really hot race, really rocky. And you know, one of the runners had like heat stroke, and another runner just stayed with them the entire time, waited for the helicopter to come, you know, rescue, and that cost her race. But she's, you know, she's a nurse, and she is just, you know, it's awesome. It's like you're never out there by yourself. It's like everybody's your friend. It's so cool. You just stop, you're like, you know, doing whatever pace, and somebody comes up next to you, and you run with somebody for a little bit, tell them your life story, all your traumas. You know, I think we're all trauma bonded. That's why we're all like such good friends now, right? But yeah, so I think that's what really drew me into the ultras. Not even that, not that like, oh, what can I do like in my power? Not like this like hubris, you know. It was more just like a hobby. It is just like a hey, this is fun. I I have like this aversion to being very mainstream. So I'm like, ultra running is weird. I'm weird. Like that everybody runs ultras seems kind of weird. Like, you know, it's like my people. So yeah, that's what got me into it really is just like it just felt like an awesome community, you know, like a lot of those races are like a party, even though they're like painful and hard.
I love that. Well, first of all, I love your passion for the sport and for life in general. I mean, I love it. You bring such a positive energy talking about all of this. I love that. But yeah, I mean, finding your tribe, that must be an amazing experience and very good. There's quite a few things you said, so I'm resisting to go off into tangents and everything, but it is an amazing insight, especially for people who never run that far. You know, maybe they're thinking about it. Even people who are just curious of like, okay, why do people do this? I mean, it's a great insight from many different points of view. Now, obviously, with this, we've been moving through sort of linear time, but just to move around out of that just for a bit and break down the races, I was thinking. I know you're quite humble earlier. You said, "Oh, it's not that many and everything," but every single one is a story. Now, I'd love to talk about them all, but we'll be here until like next week. So I've tried to break it down into like a few different things, and one of them I have to ask you basically is which ones are your favorites? And I mean, I know you enjoy the process of running, the people you meet and everything, but I was just curious if there's ones that are the most special. Maybe you had to push through something extra in your life outside the race. Maybe it was like just an amazing location and you've never seen anything like it. Some people have told me that, like, wow, you know, I never would have gone there if I hadn't been running or whatever. So what I'm getting at is there's different reasons why it's your favorite. But I was wondering out of those ones, which ones actually stand out to you as being the most special for you personally, basically.
Um, well, I haven't done any in very many abroad or anything. But I mean, probably Hurt 100 was is uh, a really meaningful race to me just because uh, it's hard to get into. It's a lottery. Um, I had been on the waiting list and I was like 80th or 88th or something, and they only accept like 115 people. I don't even know. I can't remember, but it's a small amount. And so I was thinking like, gosh, you know, like half the field or more has to drop for me to get in, so I'm not getting in. And then uh, there's a race I run every year, or well, I've missed it last year, but I run Javelina 100, which is a desert race in Arizona. And it's a 20-mile loop through the desert. But it's like this big party in the desert. Like it's not like a normal ultra. It's like a luxury ultra, I guess. I've done it 4 times. I'm gonna do it next weekend. And it's just like this really fun, like everybody sets up uh camp at headquarters with their like easy ups and whatever, and a lot of people come to crew, or just hang out and party. They have an open bar halfway through the course at Jackass Junction at this aid station. Like it's like a really fun one. So anyway, so I had run that, and so this was, I guess, 2021, I guess. And I had it's the only time, because of my work, I have a really hard time with high volume weeks. So I'm actually a very low volume runner. I've finished hundreds on like 35, peaking at 50 miles a week. Like, you know, the pros are running like over 100 miles a week, you know. And so, but this was the first race that I actually like trained super hard for. Like I did maintain a schedule. In fact, I was using sick time to leave early to do hill workouts and things that I had never done before. Like I don't do like these training official things. I call myself a fake runner because like I joke that I literally just don't know anything about running. I just like go. So I actually had someone make me a training plan and I stuck to it. And I was trying to sub 20 hours. I did not even come close to that, but I like busted my butt and I just had a lot of things go wrong. But you know, when you go balls to the wall, you just kind of, whatever happens, happens. And I finished in like 22 something, which is still great. Like I'm super proud of that. Because I feel like I just like laid it all out. I ended up like I couldn't even do anything for like 2 days. I lost 11 pounds because of like the dehydration, and I couldn't eat for like several days after. I had like ultra stomach so bad. Um, and so I was like, all right, I'm not getting into hurt. I'm like way far on this list. And hurt is, for anyone who doesn't know, is running midway through January. So I just run this race, which is always Halloween weekend. So, you know, it's a few months in between. So I was like, all right, I'm not getting into that race. So I'm just going to chill. I need to like recover. So I took a month off of running, and I had just started running again, like short distances in December. And and then like December, and I kept moving up the list. Like, and I would check it and I was like, oh wow, I'm like 50th now, like 30 people dropped, you know? And so I was kind of like watching it, and then my friends are like, you're so getting in. Like my friends who had run it before, like Andrea and some other people, they're like, you're getting in. Like the list is like moving, you know? And so then I'm like sixth on the list, and it's like the second week of December. And so it's like 4 weeks before the race. So I think it was like December 19th or 21st or something, I get in. So I'm like, I haven't even done a long run in like 2 months. You know, I've been doing like 6 mile, 10 mile runs, just like easy, whatever. And so I was like, okay. And hurt is, I think it has 24, 25,000 feet of gain. And so this was the first time that I was genuinely, absolutely scared out of my mind to show up at the start line. I was like, oh my God, like I can't believe I'm going to hurt. Like I feel like you know, I haven't trained at all. And I was like, all right, well, you know, whatever, I'm going to go, because what if I never get into this race again? You know? And the reason I got in is because Hawaii was still requiring people to be vaccinated. And so they required for the race to get a permit for all of the runners to be vaccinated. So the reason why the wait list moved so quickly was because people just didn't want to get the jab. And I have to for work. You know, I have to get all the everythings, you know. And so I was like, sweet. Like that worked in my favor. Like, thanks, COVID. It's the only good thing that came out of that for me. And so I show up to the race, and oh, actually, funny thing is I get on the plane, and I have like a Hoka backpack, you know, like this bright Hoka backpack. And it's like, you know, Hoka's gotten kind of mainstream now. All the nurses wear the shoes, but you know, this guy, he sits next to me and he's like, notice your Hoka backpack. Are you running hurt? And I was like, yeah, I am. And he's like, so am I. I was like, what? This plane is like huge. And the one guy or the two people that are running hurt are like sitting next to each other on the plane. It was like so funny. I mean, it was cool. So then again, I was going alone, didn't know anyone, had no friends running the race, made a friend on the plane, you know, and then we hung out in Hawaii. It was so fun to like have a friend. Like I love that community. And so I was like, all right, the cutoff is 36 hours. So my only goal was to finish. So I was like, I'm finishing in 35 and a half hours. That's my goal. So I basically I drank Gatorade the entire race. I put it in like my drop bags and everything because I was so scared. I didn't know how to deal with the humidity. It's very hot and humid. And uh, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna have like one water bottle with water and the other one with Gatorade. And I just did that the whole race. It worked really well for me. Just because I didn't want to have to try to balance my electrolytes with like the salt tabs and try to keep track because by about like 50 miles in, I'm like a toddler. I've like, my brain is like runner's brain. If you talk to me, I'm going to be like, what? So, I'm just like, I won't remember. I didn't have a crew to be like spoon feeding me. I usually run without a crew. I don't typically have, pacers and stuff. Uh, but it is nice to have them. But I always feel bad like asking because, it's like, um, it's a big ask for somebody to, take vacation to, be your babysitter basically for a whole race. But so anyway, yeah. So I ended up uh running it in 35 and a half hours. It was great. I had like the most fun. And, I think it was because I wasn't trying to be fast. I was just there to have a good time. And like, I was like always looking at the views, like really like experiencing, it was, yeah, it was really awesome. It's such a great race. I would love to do it again and try to actually go balls to the wall on it, and be prepared. But yeah, that's definitely probably my favorite race. The energy there is fantastic. Like the volunteers are amazing. Like the race directors, everybody, they're so just like joyful and most volunteers at races are too, but that race has like such a vibe, just an awesome vibe. um Also like they kind of mom you. Uh I eat vegan and they have a lot of vegan options, which is fantastic. And it's so cool because the first time around, because they're not so much loops as there's like a loop, a loop, a loop. It's like a clover, I guess. Um, so you pass um certain spots like, oh, maybe it's like a figure eight. I don't remember. See, I just runner's brain. But anyway, you get to like the main aid station, like start finish. You pass it a few times. So I was like, they remember what you like, they're just like, oh yeah, like I had this veggie wrap ready for you, here you go. Like I'll like, oh wow, thanks. Like, like they're so cool. Like they're really great. And they have these really awesome like rice balls too. I know it's funny, but I like remember the food because I like love the food. But anyway, so yeah, that was awesome. But yeah, and then Badwater, that's probably my other favorite race. Even it's funny is like I crewed it last year for my friend Jeff, the one that was gonna quit with me that day that I met at my first failed. Actually, it wasn't a fail. It was just my first dive into ultras. But so I crewed him, and so I got the feel for the race, which is what Chris Kaufman, like what he prefers, so that you know what you're getting into. And I truly believe that it is harder to crew and pace that race than to run it. So when you have a team of 4 people or 3 people, like we had 3 people crewing Jeff, and it's just like you're exhausted. Like you stop every 2 miles to give your runner ice and water because it's so hot. And it's for safety. So you basically like leapfrog with the runner with your car, and so you have to take a week off, and But like I said, it's like when you're in that community and somebody asks you to crew them at some awesome bucket list race that they're so excited to do, and you're like, you know, they're so like driven to do this like super hard thing. Like you feel like I feel more privileged to be asked to like crew a like Badwater or some like epic experience this person wants to have with you to be a part of it, you know? And I love to see like my friends complete those things, you know? Like I like cried when he finished. I didn't even cry when I finished Badwater. Like you know, so it's like so it is kind of cool too, is like, you kind of develop a system like, oh, well, I crewed you, so now you have to crew me too. So you can kind of like keep it in the bank. um, like, oh, well, you paced me, so like I'll pace you. And then, so, you kind of earn trades a little bit. So yeah. So that's fun too. But yeah, Badwater would probably be my second favorite. That also has a really awesome vibe. I know people have a lot of opinions about it. Like, some people have very negative opinions about it. There's some ultra running politics, just like any other sport, but you just gotta just do what you want. I'm just gonna do what I want. I don't care if other people, don't like it. But so yeah.
What an incredible insight into two of the races I was really hoping would come up. I mean, there's quite a few you've done that are amazing, and Badwater, I've heard a lot about it from having people on here like Harvey Lewis or like Haley
Oh
Frederick,
yeah.
the youngest. You probably know some of these, and it is pretty wild. But I mean, to get your vibe on it. Now, I'll come back to a couple of other things about races, but there's something else that jumps out at me, as we're talking here, because you said earlier about like not being mainstream and sort of going away from all that stuff, which I think is very, very cool. And when it comes to talking to people about ultras who are not into the scene, and it comes up like, well, what do you do for fun? Well, I run 100 miles or whatever. How do those sorts of conversations go with people who are not familiar with it? I mean, obviously the sport is growing a lot, and there's a lot more coverage. I mean, whether it's mainstream, probably not. There's a lot more coverage in a good way to grow the sport, but there's a lot of people who probably don't know about it. So, like when that comes up, I was just curious what your thoughts on that are and how that goes for you, basically.
um well, usually people are just like, well, like how many days are you doing this over, like and then you're like, just one. They're like, what? It's hard to fathom. But I did not know about ultra running before I met the people through We Rock. I didn't even know that existed. So you know I was just like, people are doing that. I always said like, I would, I was like, Badwater, I would never do that. Like, who would do that? That sounds horrible. Like, it's so hot and terrible, like gross. I would never do that. And then like, I went and did it. It's like, and so now I always say like, I never say I'm not going to do something anymore. And so when I talk to people about it, they're like, oh, I could never do that. And I'm like, yes, you can. I really think that anybody can do it who has a basic ability, to but you know what, man, I've seen people running ultras blind. There was a veteran who ran, he finished in front of me. Like he's blind. He had a bomb go off by his head. It like rearranged his whole skull. I mean, blind, deaf, finished Badwater. Anybody can do it, And people are always like, oh, like you just are, you're just like beyond with your fitness. And I'm like, dude, I am a beer drinking dumpster vegan. I eat junk food. I love like French fries. Like I am not the picture of health. Like I'm just like whatever, you know? And and so I always tell people, I'm like, look, they're like, well, I could never do that. I'm like, yeah, you could, you just don't want to. The difference is that when you want to do something, you figure out how, you know? And so I people are like, oh, I want to go run with you sometime, but like you're too fast for me, or like you go too far or something. And I'm like, well, first of all, no, I can go any distance with you. And I know how to walk. I know how to jog. It's easier to go slow than to go faster. Like I'm not, So people have this mindset that you're like above them and then they can't like, coexist with you on the it's like, no, we're on the same plane. Like we all started somewhere. My first long run was 1.5 miles and I had to walk in the middle because I went out too fast and I was not a runner, and I was in pretty good shape, but I was just not in running shape. And, I'm like, you have to start somewhere. Like you can't just, I mean, maybe some people can just go out and run 100, but, I built up over, I did a whole marathon training plan, where you increase a certain amount every week or whatever. But um, I don't know. I always just tell people like, look, if you want to do it, I can tell you how. I can help you. Like if you want to run with me, come run with me. You want to, check out a trail, let's go. You know, I think that people think there's this barrier, that they somehow don't have what I have or what these like other athletes have. Like, yeah, I'm no Harvey. I'm not going to be winning any races. I am a mid packer. I'm like a front mid. Like my boyfriend says I'm a 2/3 runner. I usually finish like in the top like 35%, but the very back, I'm like the 35th person. So, it's like, it's not important. Like, and that's also what I love about the sport too, is that, um, you can easily go and talk to like Courtney Dauwalter or any of these other people that are just like insane. Sally McRae, like all these people like Harvey, like you just go up to them and talk to them. Ray Sanchez, he's done Badwater like the umpteenth time. Like I don't even know. And, he's so humble too. Like you go like ask him about like how he keeps his feet dry. And he's just like, man, I'm still figuring out my feet, And it's like, they're just, like amazing athletes. They're just like us. No, like, they're so cool. They're not like, oh, you can't talk to me because like you're like way at the back of the pack. Like, no. But also, in my opinion, as amazing as these front runners are, like the Walmsleys that are like knocking out Western states and, 13 hours, 14 hours, whatever. And you're just like that is not even human. Um, but also look, these people who can run 100 miles in 13, 14, 15 hours, they're not struggling through the night. Of course they're working super hard, but like I have such respect for the people having a bad race, like where, maybe they are usually up front, but they're just having a bad race. And instead of quitting, they just like push through, like, and maybe they're finishing like 6 hours slower than they normally were. They're barfing, they're falling asleep, whatever. Or just, the person with a walker or crutches or like whatever. I've seen like the craziest stuff and they're taking they're I was at a loop course earlier this year. There was literally a lady with a walker doing the 72-hour just to see how many miles she could get. And she was out there like most of the time, like all night, like just pushing through. And it's like, not super easy. And those are the people I have the most respect for. They're just, grinding, they're not like, they don't care that it's taking them however long, because completing that distance or achieving a goal is rewarding. You don't have to win the top prize. Like, you're winning because you're, completing something that you worked really hard to complete, like, so I love that you can run these races, and it doesn't matter if you're, the like, I love that DFL, dead fucking last, is celebrated in ultras. Cruel Jewel has a huge crown. It is like this big, and it's heavy metal. And that is like way cooler than the first place prize. That thing is heavy, man. And so, it's like good on you. You just busted your butt to finish. You are last, but that is fucking awesome. Like, congrats, like, it's so cool. I love that. And it's like everyone's, happy for you, like, yes. So, it's awesome.
Absolutely, it is. It is awesome. I mean, it's the fact that you're competing in many ways against yourself or anyone. I mean, this is the thing that's so cool about it, and it's part of what drew me into it as well. Is you can have multiple people running the same race in the same location, but they're not really running the same race because they're running it against, whatever it is for them, and they got so many different stories and so many different things. And I've heard of like I got an interview coming up with a guy who was like a successful businessman in his 30s, but he was overweight, he had a heart attack, started running to recover, ended up doing ultras. I was speaking to somebody the other day who's recovered from drug addiction through running, people. I mean, I've even heard of people in their 60s and 70s or something like you were saying, like with the walker doing some form of long distance stuff. And it's like it's such an individual thing as well where people can be their best selves. As you say, it's not about like, oh yeah, I want to beat everybody and sort of step on people. The collaboration, the respect. I love that. I mean, it's not a question. I'm just underpinning what you said because it's such a powerful lesson, and it's such a powerful lesson for one people who want to do this type of thing and they think, can I do it? After what you said earlier, but it's such an important lesson for life as well. Is the journey through life I think is weirdly similar to the journey through a race, where we're doing things at our own pace, we're doing things our own way and for our own reasons. And at the end of the day, the only thing that really matters is, okay, look, I look at myself in a mirror. What do I see? I mean, it doesn't really matter about, these other people. So that's really something that stands out about Alfred. It's really something that stands out about you personally.
Oh yeah.
And you,
And
you,
you could go through like a lifetime in 100 miles too, because people are like, another thing people who don't run ultras will say is, what do you think about that whole time? And they're like, do you listen to music? And I don't listen to music. I don't listen to podcasts. I don't listen to audiobooks like some people do. I'm just like, I don't know what I'm thinking about. It's like sometimes I'm thinking about stuff that's going on in my life. Sometimes I'm not thinking about anything, or it's just like mindful meditation where things kind of float in and then you just kind of let them go. But I've had major depression my whole life, since I was maybe 10 years old. I was suicidal when I was 10, which is very not common, Um, I've been in therapy on and off, through the years. I just finished 9 months of therapy. It's fantastic. Like, I think everybody should talk to a therapist. I think it's wonderful. And they say like running is therapy. It's, kind of like, yeah, you get like the endorphins and everything, but we always say when we go out, do long runs together, like you get a bunch of your friends and we talk about our lives and stuff. We call it trail therapy, you know. Um, but yeah, actually, ultras have helped me a lot with that because it gives me something to look forward to, um, and it just like gets you like it makes you feel like because like life is you don't want to just go to work, go home. I have 3 kids. Um, my daughter, the one who is the runner, she is 20. She doesn't live with me anymore. But I have a 15-year-old son and a 10-year-old son. And so, I've got this long hours of work, you know, I come home, I make dinner, and do whatever stuff. And yeah, I mean, you definitely, people are always like, oh, I don't have time, that's why I don't do whatever, right? And I'm like, I work 40, 50, 60 hours a week, I got off work at 10 on Wednesday, and I was there since 6 a.m., and so it's like, yeah, I get it. Like, it is hard to fit stuff in. And especially when you do have a lot of stuff going on, like you're stressed out, and stuff like that. But I really believe that if something is a priority, you somehow you get it in, like I said, like I know it's like sounds terrible, but I was getting up at like 3 in the morning and doing, runs because, I just was like, well, I don't want to be stuck. I work till 10 and then I can't run. And then I start feeling like, I start having like an existential crisis, like, what am I doing with my life? Like, all I'm doing is working, So yeah, that can get hard sometimes, but yeah, definitely 100 miles can, really mirror life sometimes. Because sometimes everything goes to plan. Rarely. You usually end up with your like, you know, B, C, D plan, but and then some are just like everything's going wrong. Like everything possible, and and the thing is it's just like life, because you're like, it's like this micro version of life, because you're like, never know what the day is going to be like. You could have had the best training block of your life and you felt more ready than ever. And then you wake up that day, and from like the get go, everything's messed up. It's like you get the runs, like your stomach's hurting, you can't eat anything, then you mess up your electrolytes, and then it's like everything can go wrong. But it's interesting because it's like, um the it is a mental game, because even though, yes, you are fit, you know or some people are fitter than others, but like you've trained enough to do this distance, and you can finish, right? So it's like, yeah, you're having a bad time, but there's like this joke, like I forget like who said it, if it was this San Diego or Deer, whatever, but it was like, it always never gets worse. So it's like a joke because so like, you could be feeling like absolute crud, and then and so you're just like, oh, I just want to drop, like I feel terrible, everything's horrible. And then, an aid station worker is going to be like, just get to the next aid station, like all you got to do, it's 4 miles away. Like you can't drop here. That's what they love to say. You can't drop here. You have to drop at the next one. So just get there. Well, because they know that, not always, because it could be you are really messed up. But if you're just having a low, by the time you get to that other aid station, you're feeling a little bit better, Usually if you're feeling bad, you just need to eat, which is funny. It's like you're hangry or something, but you're just having a low because you like need some food in you or something, And so, it is like that. You just, they say like you run the first half with your legs and the second half with your mind, because yeah, like your mind is going to give up well before your body is going to give up, you know? Hold on, there's somebody at my door. Oh, thank you. Sorry. I have like certified mail coming. I don't want to miss it. I
No
have to
worries.
sign for it.
No
All right.
problem.
Anyway, but
Well,
yeah, so
it's an amazing answer what you were saying there, Melissa. First of all, with the depression thing, thank you for mentioning that. Only because, first of all, it is I think it's a brave thing to mention something like that publicly. And I know I don't want to sound cliche with this, but the fact of, letting people know they're not alone and all of that type of thing, it is true, it is very much, it is very, very true. And it does break down barriers. It does show people you can still have a good life and everything. So mentioning that, very cool. Again, there's quite a few things you said. I think we could do multiple episodes of this. I'm trying to think like, keeping it condensed is cool because you share so much cool stuff in every answer, and that's a compliment, definitely. Shortly, we'll wrap this up fairly soon because for people's attention spans and things like keep it a little bit tight with that. But with what was I going to ask? Oh yeah, with your daughter, does she still run? If you don't mind me asking, do you ever still run together, or is it just something she sort of supports you with now? And
she she doesn't run anymore. She did cross country in high school for a few years. But I think she's just doing life now. She's a vet tech and a dog groomer. Um, she I think though, like she'll come back to it later. I think like when you're young, when you're in your 20s and whatever, like if your goals are not like sport, then you're not really like she's still like thin and beautiful, she's not thinking like I need to work out or anything. So but I think she will come back to it. I think that's the good thing about kids too is that, they're it's like what I love about the that nonprofit program is like because it seems like unfathomable to a lot of people for like 12-year-olds 13-year-olds running a full marathon. um and it's so valuable at that age when everything like is terrible. I just remember being a young teen and just thinking like everybody hates me and like everything's horrible all the time. And I love that she has made goals and achieved them, and it was hard. And I think that a valuable thing is like knowing that it's okay that something is super hard and you had to go through it. um it's working hard. I feel like has been kind of like downplayed now. I feel like people are more like um supporting the idea that like you should be like playing more, right? Like the Instagram life, like which sure, like traveling and stuff, that's fun. Like I like it too, but this like van life, very like untethered, we're just like chilling all the time and like, you know, um, kind of like relaxed life, but we're not gonna work hard at anything. And like that's cool, if you can have a life like that, great. But I think like I must like the struggle because maybe it's because I've always kind of struggled, but like I've always had this drive to challenge myself with things. I don't know, I had my daughter when I was 17 actually, and that was rough. I came from a very conservative Christian family, and so that was very disappointing to my my parents. And but they helped me so much. Thankful for them. But so I think like I've always had to fit things in. Like I was a mom when all my friends are doing whatever. And so I was working, I was going to college, it took me like so long to finish school. Um, but I feel like I like I would ne I'm not self-made. I am a product of everybody who's helped me in my journey, but I'm proud of like um where I've been and where I'm going. Like I'm not done. And so I hope that my daughter and my kids, my other two kids, like I hope that they see that I'm always like working hard to, do stuff, so that they know that it's like it's okay to like struggle sometimes, but in the end, you know, the the reward, it's good. Even if it's not like a tangible reward. It's like every time that you do something you're proud of, your brain, remembers. And I work in my job is like neurodiagnostics. So I'm like always thinking about the brain. But um so yeah, I mean, and I would hope that the kids like want to also work hard for things just for like their own benefit, just so that they can become better people, and not always like relying on other people to like get things and be like entitled and stuff, that working hard for stuff is a reward. Like when you get it, feels good, that you worked hard for it. You don't really value things that you get for free all the time, So yeah, that's how I feel about ultras. I feel like I like those, and I like that 100 mile or longer distance because I have to work harder for it, I guess. I don't have to work as hard for like a shorter distance, even though I feel like you would go faster, I guess. So you're still working really hard, but it's like over so fast. Like it's just, I don't know, like a half marathon only gonna take like 2 hours. I mean, it would take me 2 hours. Other people finish it way faster, um but I'm like, but then it's done. And so I like to have this like overnight experience, like where it's just like this, like, I don't know. Sometimes, like, even when I'm just death marching at the end, I'm still stoked to be there. I'm like always like, just, I don't know, mostly happy, all the time when I'm out there. So I like that. It's kind of like maybe a little bit of escapism, I guess. I always thought like I liked going on my long runs. I used to live in a canyon in the mountains, and I think what I liked about the long runs and training was because no one could come with me. Um, it was like my husband at the time, we're not together anymore, but like he wasn't a runner, so like I it was like my alone time, my like self-care was that I was doing like an 18-mile run in the mountains, and like no one can come with me. It was like my own thing. It was like um, you know, I guess some people want to go get like a massage or whatever. That was like my version of self-care. It was like where I can go, and I always felt like my mind is like quiet, it's like meditative for me. That's what I like about it.
Amazing. I mean, it makes total sense. The hard work thing and the work ethic, that is what a lesson for people. I mean, at the end of the day, this is why I do these anyway, is to share things like that. And I always aim for like the fun stories from races or from, whichever sport it is, and then the lessons people have learned along the way. And today we've really got that because you're such an open book. I mean, I have to say it. I mean, I've done a lot of these interviews. I don't know how many actually, but I think it's probably coming up on about 300 now, and there's certain ones that
Wow.
stand out, and I don't say it very often, but this one today has been one of my favorites because you just speak from the heart in a way that's actually quite rare, but it's very beautiful as well. Like, there's nothing really held back, and there's like a very profound honesty with this. And it's cool because, when I sit down to do these, I don't really prepare like questions anymore unless somebody wants them sent or something. I just think of like, okay, two rough themes I'd like to talk about, and then we'll see where it goes from there. And it's cool because today it's been like totally different than what I expected, but much better, if you get what I mean with that. Like it's been, because even though when we haven't really gone off topic, but when we've gone into different topics, like at the same time, it's been a lot cooler. It's been a lot deeper than what I expected, if that makes sense. So it's very, very profound. I mean, personally, I've picked up some things from this, and I'm going to listen to it back as well, which I don't always do. I mean, some of them, if there's no mistakes or anything, I just put the intro on there and put it out. But this one, I'm going to listen to it back for myself as well, because there's so much contained in there, and I really feel that. Um, I really feel that when you're running these races as well, even though you're doing this for you, you do represent some of these ideas to people. So the individualism thing, being your authentic self, and I know that these sorts of things are thrown around a lot these days, whatever. But at the same time, I mean, you are your authentic self. So by people seeing what you're doing. For example, you can show people, okay, actually, it's okay to be me, and the chips will fall where they may, type of thing. Obviously, the whole thing. I mean, the fact that I'd like at the end of the tunnel, yes, but there's a way out of some of these things to be the best version of yourself. Obviously, the depression thing. I mean, you get what I'm saying. There's so many things that you sort of represent, and I can think that when you're running, people see that and they think, wow, okay, some of these things affect me, if you get what I mean. I think that's a very, very profound position to be in. And even though you're competing with yourself, I mean, we've talked about that, you're doing this for your own reasons. At the same time, I think that has an effect. Now, we'll wrap this up very quickly. I just want to ask you one other thing about your future plans very briefly, and then we'll wrap this up because you've got things to do with your day, and it's I don't want to take too much of your time, but you mentioned having a race this weekend, I think, or next weekend or something like that. You said coming up soon. So in terms of like what you want to do over the next however long, I mean, if you want for like the next year, I don't know how far ahead you plan this stuff, but just some of the things, even if there's certain races where you're looking at it and you think, right, okay, that's one that I want to take off the list, all that type of stuff, the things that are lighting your fire from this point forward, please.
Well, the one next week is just that Javelina 100 that I've done. It's going to be like my fifth time doing it, and I haven't really been running at all since Badwater. So, and I mean like not at all. So, I just I'm just gonna show up to blow up. I'm just gonna like whatever, uh, do it. We'll see how it goes. I have a bunch of friends who are doing their first 100 there this year, so that'll be really exciting. But next year, pretty much the only race that I feel like I am for sure going to do is I want to do Fat Dog, um, which is in Canada, and it's I think 126 miles. So I've heard it's just like really beautiful. It's like hard. It has some crazy weather. My boyfriend's done it before, so I want him to do it with me and like try to stay together, which is so hard. We probably won't be able to, but it'll be yeah, that'll be cool. I was thinking about going back to Comrades, but that's South Africa. It's they alternate years. It was a down year this year. So it's going to be an up year next year, and I want to do the up, but I'm not sure if we're gonna do that. But so yeah, I don't know. That's that's it. I did a lot of trips this year, so I gotta save up my vacation time at work, so I don't have like a lot of big plans. I would someday like to do like UTMB or something. You gotta earn all of those stones. They keep like changing it. I know like Iron Man bought that out, which goes see that bothers me because that's now making it really mainstream. Kind of sad. They're like buying up all these races, but yeah. So yeah, Fat Dog. That's my only plan next year. We'll see. I'll probably sprinkle in some other stuff, like local stuff. Um, we have a race down south of us, about like an hour and a half, that I like to do. I've done it a couple times, and I might do that one. I'm trying to get into Western states. We're all trying to get into Western states all the time. But it's harder to get into that race than win the Powerball or something. I don't know. But fingers crossed. That's why I need to do this race next weekend, though, because of the cool races that I have done this year. None of them were a qualifier. And so that's why I have to finish this race that I'm totally untrained for. So do as I say, not as I do. Don't go into races with no training. We're all crazy. But yeah, so that's my plan. I'd like to do Badwater again. I'd like to do Herd again. Probably not next year, but let's see. I did not get into Herd this year. The lottery was in like July or August or something, but so we'll see.
Well, good luck with all of it anyway. I mean, this is something I still think there's some great races out there for you, and there's some great things on the horizon yet to come. I definitely feel that vibe. We'll see what they are, but it's been great to hear about your experiences so far. I mean, I get the feeling sometimes when we do these talks that we've only scratched the surface, and I think with you and your life, we've only scratched the surface. But at the same time, there's so much here that, as I've already said, will benefit and help people, and that's what I'm all about. And there's a lot of fun stories. So it's gonna give people some good laughs and some good, fun to listen to or watch, but also then they can take away those little things and hopefully put things into practice in their own lives. As I said, everyone's journey is different, but there's definitely some things you shared that will help that. So thank you so much for your time, Melissa.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe to the Simply Inspired YouTube channel, and there'll be more videos coming soon.